So you can go grab some water, go to the restroom, and then we're gonna dive into Tableau, which is what we came for. Let me share this. And I'm gonna share these slides with you so that you can follow through, and then you can focus on the discussion here, and feel free to take notes or anything. But I think Melanie went over Kaggle, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time with this, just to reinforce the idea that this is a great website where you can access great data sets. If you're looking for example questions or illustrations or even sample data to work on, Kaggle is a great resource. So it is highly recommend you to take a look at it, play around, create an account, and then the data set that Melanie was using and that we're gonna use in Tableau is based on a Kaggle window on a Kaggle site. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go over, and I'm gonna do this somewhat briefly, different types of visualization and some of the pitfalls that you can have with them. And then after that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about um, a very controversial topic, which is what people call like lying with data, which is how can we create visualizations that mislead people? And of course, I'm doing that to encourage you to avoid it. And also to encourage you, when you see a visualization that might not be sharing the full picture, to ask questions and to question it, because visualization can be poorly used. And to know how people use it poorly, we need to know what are the fundamentals of visualization. Okay, so this is a horizontal bar graph that sometimes they are very helpful for summarizing frequencies when you have data that is some variable. For example, in this case, uh, different types of protein, and then how much greenhouse gas emissions they emit. And so when you want to know just the amount of kilograms of emissions, you can just visualize it very well in a bar chart, in a horizontal bar chart. It's just going to show you very clearly that beef generates way more emissions than, for example, peas or eggs or grains. And so what I would encourage you to be careful about horizontal bar charts is don't do so many bars, because if there's just so many of them, you're not even going to be able to read them. And one of the reasons why I put this graph here is because this is, and that's just my personal opinion, everyone has a different take on it. This is the most graphs, the most bars you should have in a single graph. So more than this is going to become unreadable, and less than this is usually good, but try to also accumulate some lesser known or lesser used categories so that it becomes more readable. You're going to need two column indicators, and this is just to start pivoting a little bit into what we're going to do with Tableau. And they are very helpful when you have categories like this ones, and then you have some sort of measurement that you want to illustrate. I'm going to jump now into vertical bar charts, which are very similar. It's just a different way to organize it when you can see a trend. For example, in this case, you have years and you want to see the evolution of the number of electric vehicles by year. So here you can clearly see how the electric vehicles are increasing dramatically every year. So it's similar to the horizontal one, but in this case, when you have a trend that you want to show, then you can do it vertically. Now, when you want to share the frequency of something, but then also show it as a part of a whole, that's where I would encourage you to use what we call stacked bar charts. You're comparing parts of a whole, and then you are color coding to see the difference in each category on a single bar. I believe these are months. I think I deleted this by accident, but this is something like January, February, March, April. And then you can see here the share that you paid in utilities, the share that you paid in rent, food, and gasoline. And of course, these are not, this is not rent in Seattle or Austin, because it's so much more expensive than this. But it's just an example of how you can organize your budget for yourself or for your company, and then put it in a stacked bar where you can see here, for example, in March, that what increased is that our food budget kind of went off the record. It went crazy, it blew up. So next month we need to take into account this and try to decrease a little bit our food budget. I'm gonna go now into 100% stacked bar charts, where instead of having a different axis, every bar has the same axis that is 100%, and then you can see the distribution based on different categories. So in this case, age, different groups. So people less than 30, people between 30 and 40, 40 and 50, 50 and 60, and more than 60, and how they voted color coded. So you can see here that young people voted yellow, voted yes, way higher proportion. And then you can see here that older people voted no in higher proportion. So this one is different from the previous one because in this one you can see here that the axis is different for all of them. In this case, it is showing you the same. Everyone is 100%, and what you're seeing is the share percentage of each of them. And by the way, I am in the introduction, I forgot to say that as much as I am a data scientist, I am in a public policy school. So you're going to see that a lot of my examples are related to the world of policy or social affairs and things like that. Just to give you an idea of why so many of my examples are like voting and healthcare and things like that. Just to give you that also nugget of content. These are 100% stacked bar charts. The next one, the second to last that I want to show you is line charts. When you have data that is what we call continuous data, where you can see the evolution across time or across a variable of all those data. So they are good over time and they're very good for showing trends. Now make sure that the lines are legible because sometimes, for example, all the lines will be the same color. So when you come here and look for something, you're not going to be able to know what is what. So make sure that the colors are readable. Remember, there's a lot of color blindness. So try to use scales that allow colorblind people to also be able to read your graphs. And then this is my personal opinion. This is not the example here, but I usually say don't plot more than 4 lines in a graph. Even this one that has 6, at least to me, is already a little bit confusing. And then make sure that the lines are labeled. Make sure that when I look at this orange line, I'm able to tell what it is. And in this case, I can see very clearly here that it is India. And I can see, for example, very clearly here that the United Kingdom is decreasing. And then you have the label. Okay, so for trends, continuous data, line charts are very good, but make sure that they are legible. Make sure that there's not so many lines. Make sure that they're legible. And then the last graph that I want to show you is one that is my least favorite. And Stefania might remember me also ranting about this. And I have a terrible example here because I want you to see the problem with pie charts. Pie charts are very helpful for representing parts of a whole. When you have different categories that you want to see how things get sliced, you need to make sure that the data adds to 100%. But the problem is when people use so many categories that the pie charts become unreadable. So be very careful with pie charts. If you need, accumulate a last group that is, for example, less than 10% and accumulate it as others. And now I'm going to show you one of those examples of the pie charts that just don't allow me to sleep at night because they're just so horrible and they are a crime to data visualization. And this is one example where you have the 50 states and their population. And so this is an example of a terrible, terrible pie chart because you're barely able to see anything here. You're barely able to find out which state is which. You already have the numbers here of the population. It doesn't really tell you much. So you can actually accumulate all of this here, like in the other category, and even still, you have so many different colors. You have so many different categories that it's just very annoying. So you can use pie charts when you want to represent categories as parts of a whole, but be very careful about not doing something like this because it just makes it very annoying to try to read and to try to find out what you're trying to say. Storytelling with a chart like this is very hard to convey. It's very hard to come across. So in terms of choosing the right graph, as a quick summary, if you want to compare categories, you can use a column bar or a line chart. The same with distributions. If you want to show the relationship between different value sets, you can use a line graph. If you want to share trends over time, also line charts or a column bar chart like the one I showed you at the beginning might be helpful. And if you want to show composition parts of a whole, either a pie chart or a star stacked bar graph might be helpful for that. And just a few guidelines of choosing the right chart. So like I was saying at the beginning, remember your purpose and audience. Make sure you choose a type of graph that is going to be helpful for conveying what you're trying to say. I see a hand raised. I just saw the indicator, but I don't know who it is. So feel free to ask your question on mic yourself, and then we can keep going.
No, it was an accident. Sorry.
Okay, okay, cool. Okay, so I was saying that make sure you label and identify, make sure that everything is readable, but also make sure that the data doesn't clutter, that the graph has enough information, but not too much that it is unreadable. Okay. Remember that simplicity is king. And I really like this saying that people say less is more. Don't overcrowd your graph with like this one with what was it? Um, with colors and numbers, and it's just annoying. Don't overuse colors. Find the good contrast, and remember there's colorblind people. And of course, don't mislead. Don't try to convey something that is not in the data. It is very easy to do, and it can be very tempting. And this is where our personal ethics come into play. We need to be sincere, and we need to use data responsibly because data is very powerful, but you also need to use it responsibly. And then before I go into a few examples of misleading graphs, I want to take questions or comments, and then if not, then we can just have a quick 5 to 10 minute break. But does anyone have any questions, comments? Mary, thank you so much for sharing the color blindness guidelines. And yes, it is very confusing. Um, but so does anyone have any comments? Any ideas? Also, I see that the recording stopped. So, Stefania, maybe you can double check on that in case people want to see the recording later. But yes, does anyone have any questions, comments, anything before we just take a quick break? Mary, why do you think that pie charts have become so controversial? I think so. Personally, I feel there's almost always a better graph than pie charts. And I think the problem with the categories, the problem of having many categories, is also widespread. Let me show you, and we can just have a little fun and go a little bit of the script here. Let me just share my screen for a minute, and we can go to Google. Let's just go to Google, and I'm gonna look for pie charts hate. I'm just gonna put that. We're gonna search, and you're gonna find so many articles of people hating pie charts. The hate of pie charts harms data visualization. It's a debate why you shouldn't use pie charts. This is how misunderstanding pie charts led them to being hated. Why you shouldn't use pie charts. Why do people hate pie charts? Data-driven storytelling. Tip number 8: don't use pie charts. Death to pie charts. It's a whole debate. It's a whole thing. And I think it's just because a lot of that misuse of pie charts. And like I said at the beginning, I personally don't like them, but sometimes they might be helpful. And I think that's what some people here on the internet are saying. Like, don't just discard pie charts immediately, but sometimes they might be a good way to share something. But be very careful with them because people have a thing against them. And so it's helpful to know this before you make the decision to go with a pie chart, and make sure you have a very good reason. But yeah, it's just a trend in the data science world and the data analytics world that people just don't like pie charts. So yeah, Mary, thank you for your question on that. Anyone else? Any thoughts, comments? Does anyone have an anecdote of crimes against data visualization, something that you have seen that just really didn't work, uh, or an anecdote you want to share with us?
Can you touch on donut chats? Because I remember seeing one and I didn't even know they were a thing. I thought it was it was probably a mistake or something. Maybe the person wanted to use a pie chart. But I
Mhm.
found it very confusing. So can you touch on that a bit?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your question. I didn't prepare anything for donut charts, so I'm just gonna go to the internet like I did before, and then just show you examples of donut charts, just to so that everyone knows what Ola is talking about. So donut charts basically are pie charts. They just don't have the middle, kind of like a donut. So it's just showing the different sections. For example, let's look at this one. It's just showing the proportions in a line of 100%. So it is basically like a pie chart. It just doesn't have the middle. I personally like them a bit more than pie charts. They can be more readable. Let me show you here. It's going to show an example. So this is the same data, I believe. One is a pie chart and the other one is a donut chart. And now, again, this is just personal preference, but this one is way more readable to me than this one. Or let me show you this other example. This one. 50% in blue, 30% in green, 20% in yellow, and then this one is the equivalent pie chart. They are the same conceptually. It's just a different way to show the same information. And again, this is your preference. Some of you might actually prefer this one. That's fine. This is a good example of a good use because you have three categories and you want to show that blue is 50%. But then let me show you an example here. This is terrible because you don't even know what this is. You don't even know what these categories are. These 3D pie charts are also a crime. So donuts are a bit better. They are a bit more helpful sometimes. You can put information in the middle. You don't have overcrowding of color. They are more easy to read. So in that sense, I prefer them personally. But yeah, they're just another example of a type of pie chart that you can use. So thank you, Ola, for the question. And yeah, Mary, I agree that the white spacing helps a lot. It just makes it more readable. And sometimes people put these slides with so much color that you just don't even know what's there. So the donuts are, I think, a bit more useful than the pie charts. But again, if you like pie charts, go for it. Just make sure you use them responsibly. Any other questions? Any other comments? No? Okay, so let's because when Yasmin, when maybe some of you didn't have a chance to go to the restroom or take water or something. So I'm just gonna give you 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can come back and we go now straight into Tableau. Okay. All right, folks, let's come back. And I'm gonna cover a little bit of Tableau introduction. I would love to spend so much more time on Tableau, but I think the better use of Tableau, and given that we asked you to download it before the workshop, is I'm gonna give you a quick introduction, and then we can just start doing stuff on Tableau, because it's one of those softwares that, great, seeing me lecture might be helpful to just give you some idea of where to go, but just grabbing Tableau, adding a data set, and starting to play with it is the best way to learn, at least in my opinion. So let me share my screen that already has Tableau open. This is what you're going to see the moment that you open up Tableau. And just to give you a very broad introduction of what Tableau is what we call a business intelligence tool that we can use for analyzing data. And basically, just very summarized, you can use it to create and distribute dashboards that are going to show trends and variations and stories based to data, graphs and charts, visualization, what we were discussing before. Now, a very big part of Tableau is that it can connect files that talk to each other, but are not necessarily the same one. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a few minutes, even if it's not the data set that we were working before with Melanie. But I just want to show you some of what you can do in Tableau with connecting data. So it also allows real-time collaboration. So you can be working with several people in your work and they have the same dashboard and you're making modifications to it and you're working together. So it is very good for that process. It is very good for creative understanding of data. And then you can publish these dashboards into something that is called Tableau Server, which is also very helpful. So just to summarize it, Tableau creates analysis very fast. It is very reliant. You can discover relationships in the data just by playing around with them. And we're going to do something like that. You can blend in very diverse data sets. It doesn't care. And this is another great thing about Tableau. It doesn't care what the structure or software your data comes from. It will just take it. If your data is Excel, if your data comes from an Oracle database, if it's a text file, whatever you give Tableau, it's just going to read it and be able to create things with it. And then it also provides a centralized location for you to have all your data and to play around with it. So this is how your screen of Tableau is going to look. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger, or let me just move it to my other screen so that you can see a bit better, because I remember if I put it on my larger monitor, then you can barely see, and I don't think that's super helpful. So let me put it here. I am adjusting my screen so that you can see better. Okay, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, hopefully now you're able to see better. Let me open up the chat. Okay, so this is the first screen that you're going to see in Tableau. You're going to see a sheet. You're going to see fields. You're going to see some different tabs, the tables. But what I want to do first, instead of just starting to play around with data, is to actually open up data. So you're going to find here to the bottom left where it says data source. You click on it and it's going to send you to a window that is going to allow you to open up different data files. Okay. So depending on your data file is going to give you some suggestions to connect to the source of your data. So the example that we're using today, which is one of data science salaries, it is a Microsoft Excel. And so we're going to open it using that. But first, I want to show you an example of cool things you can do with Tableau to connect different sources of data. So instead of opening up the data science ones, I'm going to double click on it. And here I'm going to be in my folders. I'm going to open up this one that says Power BI, because I have these data sets here that Stefania probably remembers, that are about cookies in a company that sells cookies. So I'm going to open up here, choose it. It's an Excel file, and I'm going to open it. And then Tableau is just going to load it. So what it's going to do is it's going to go back to the screen that we had before, this sheet. Oh, where was it? Oh, here, data source. And then it's going to show me several things. Here is going to show me the relationships within the different data tables that I have. And I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. It's going to show me here the different sheets, and it's going to ask me to create unions or create new extensions. Down here, it's going to give me a brief summary of the different columns that this data has. So in this case, it has 3 columns, one that is cookie type, revenue per cookie, and cost per cookie. And then it's going to tell me what type of variables they are. And then it's going to give me a snapshot of the data. So in this case, we have a data set that is different types of cookies, the revenue that this company makes per type of cookie, and then the cost per each of the cookies. And yes, Rashila, I'm gonna share this. Or Stefania, if you have them, you can share them. If not, I'll share them along with the materials afterwards. But yes, we'll definitely share these files. I'm gonna focus more on the data science one. I just want to show you something you can do with these ones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my window here where I have the different data, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it. So I'm literally gonna grab customers table. I'm just gonna throw it here. And we're gonna see that Tableau immediately adds it here. Customers. Now I can see here
I'm
that
going
it
to
says
pause you for
customers.
a while.
Uh,
I'm not, I don't see the Excel sheets or the data set that you have. Can you put in a chat so we can download it?
uh, yes, Sweta. Let me see, because we're not going to be working on this data set. I just want to show you an example of it, but we can share it in a few minutes.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm just going to show you this, and then we're going to go back into the file that we used so that we can analyze based on that. So you're going
Okay.
to see here that the sheet gets added. I'm going to add the other one that is orders. I'm just going to drag it and drop it there, and it's going to add them here. So now what I'm going to do is I have these cookie types, and I have this order sheet here, and I can just drag it and drop it here, and you can see that Tableau is going to create a connection between these different data files. Why? Because cookie types is just the types of cookies, and then each order has a type of cookie that people ordered. So it's going to try to create a connection. It's going to say it doesn't understand why. So you can come here and you can tell it that cookie type on the cookie type table corresponds with the product in the orders table. And then it's going to be able to connect both of the tables. And so now I have 2 different Excel spreadsheets that get connected in a certain way. And then if I wanted to add another one, customers, for example, I can just grab the table, drag it, and put it with orders. It's not going to be able to tell which is the connection, but I can come here and manually add the connection. I think I overrid it, so I lost the original connection that I had. So let me bring orders again, connect it there, and now it knows what I am doing. So this is a brief example of just the different cool types of connections that you can create with Tableau. And the reason why I used a different set of tables is because the data science one is just a standalone table. And so I was not able to show you that with that data set. But one of the big things, one of the powerful tools that, or powerful abilities that Tableau has is for you to be able to connect different tables and create different visualizations on them. Okay, so with that introduction, now I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save it because it was just a quick thing. And now I'm going to open up Tableau again to go, and we can go over the data science one. And the good thing about the data science one is that you folks have already seen it. You folks have already worked on it with Melanie. So you already have an idea of how the data looks and how some of the summaries look. So now we can just get into the fun part, that is the visualization. So remember, I have the data here, and let me just look for the data source. So I'm gonna go here, back to this tab. For now, I'm gonna ignore this, and we're gonna work on this in a minute. But I'm gonna go here to data source. We know that the data science salaries is an Excel spreadsheet. So we're just gonna go and look for it in our computer. oh, where did my mouse go? There. And I'm gonna go to ScaleSpire, and I'm gonna look for DS salaries. That's the data science salaries. And you can see that it's an Excel file. If it's a different type of file, if you downloaded it differently or transformed it or anything else, that's fine. I'm gonna open it. It's gonna do the query, it's gonna run it, and then it's gonna open up the dataset. And the good thing about this workshop and the reason we did it this way is because hopefully you've already seen and you spent 2 hours with Melanie looking at this data set. So now when you see the way that Tableau organizes it here, you're going to see the same thing that you were exploring before, but organized in a different way. So you can see here, I'm going to close this. You can see here the table, which I'm going to make smaller because we're not going to be adding more data. I'm just going to make this window smaller, and here you can remove it, and you can do different operations with them. You can rename it. So let's call it data science, science salaries. Enter. Now it changed the name. Now it has a more readable name. Here, I can see the different fields that this table has. Let me open it up a little bit. And you're going to be able to see, and you might remember these: salary, salary in USD, company size, company location, everything else, the employee residence, and hopefully you already remember this from the section with Melody. And then here, you're going to see a snapshot of the data. This is how it looked in Excel. You can see the different variables, you can see the values, you can just have a snapshot of the whole data. Now, something that Tableau does that is one of those advantages, say, over Excel, is that it's going to show you here what type of variable it is. For example, as this F1, that is just an index, is just a number. Work year is a number. Experience level is a word, right? It's a character. Employment type, job title, these are words. Salary, it's a number. And then you can change them here if you want to. So you can split, you can create aliases, you can describe them, you can do many different things with the variables. You can change the type here if you want to make it a number, if you want to make it a date time or something else. Now, be careful, because here, these are not numbers. So if I try to turn this into a number, I'm going to try this and it might ruin it, but it shouldn't work. It's going to transform them and it's not going to know what it is, right? So now I think I'm going to need to, how did I undo? Oh, you know what? I'm just going to close. I knew this was going to happen. I'm just going to remove it. Remove. And I'm just going to add it again. There you go. And here is my data again. And actually that allows me to make a note that is very helpful. Tableau is not really changing your file. That is a very helpful characteristic that Tableau has. When I did that thing that I ruined this variable because I told Tableau that it is a number and these are words, these are letters, and it just ruined all the data. It didn't do anything to the file that I have on my computer. That just happened inside of Tableau. You know how in Excel, sometimes you go and then you add something and then you just change it and it's like now like forever like that. And you're like, oh, how do I go back to the numbers that I had before? Tableau doesn't have that problem because Tableau, all I did is I just deleted the table. I just added it again and it just brought me back into my original data. Okay, so this is the way that Tableau structures the data when I load it. Before I go now into creating visualizations with the data, I want to get questions. I want to see who, let's see. I see a hand raised. R. Cole, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to go over if you had experience or could briefly touch on like Tableau Prep benefits of using and stuff like that to help with cleaning data and stuff like that.
Yes, yes. So I've used it. I worked with a company that cleaned their data using Tableau Prep. Not my favorite, to be 100% honest, because Tableau, like I mentioned before, is a data business intelligence tool. So it is mostly for creating dashboards. If you want to clean the data, it's probably better to do it with code, with Python, with SQL. with even R, or even with the Power Query tool in Excel. Now, some of what I'm saying might sound daunting and everything else, and just pivoting back into the courses that we offer, that's one of the reasons why we don't do Power BI or Tableau immediately. We do it because we do it um, we do it before, so that you learn how to clean your data before you visualize it. So you clean it using code, or you clean it in Excel, and then once you have the data ready, you open it up in Tableau, because Tableau prep is not as robust as some of the things you can do with code. But if it works for you, go ahead. If your company uses it, go ahead. It's helpful for most cases. It's just sometimes a bit more inefficient. But again, that's a matter of preference. I don't like Honda cars. I like Toyota better, but frankly, there's barely any difference between them. So whatever works for you, feel free to use them. I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess it's just more like my personal opinion based on my experience and what we've done in the past in my company and Skillspire and other places. Anyone else? Any comments? Any questions? Is everyone able to follow along? Do you folks have your Tableau installed and you're able to open up the data and have the screen how I have it right now? Is that anyone? Can anyone raise your hands, or give me a wave in case you're able to do it, or if you've had any questions about the process? Thank you, Rashila. Anyone else? No? And like I mentioned, I believe that the best is to do with, especially with Tableau. You can play around with the data, but feel free to just follow along the conversation and then try it on your own or try it later. In about 25, 30 minutes, we're going to go into a section of the workshop where I'm just going to leave you on your own, and Stefania is going to help you build dashboards based on what we're discussing. So you'll also have a chance to just work on them without me like necessarily talking all the time and then just interrupting the process. Okay, if you
I had a
don't,
question.
Mhm.
I forget the term. Is it primary keys when you're doing the connection, and do the connections
Yes,
have to be like the same type, or it doesn't work, or something in that nature?
correct. So, and just to put everyone on the same page, and what Cole was asking. So when you have two tables that you need to relate, you need one variable that is the variable that connects both of the tables. To give you an example, and I'm just making this up just to try to illustrate. If you have a table that is Alfonso's or Skillspire demographics, so you have all the students from Skillspire and your ages and I don't know your salaries or something else. And then I have another table that is your cookie preferences. So it's going to have my name, and it's going to have Cole's, and it's going to have Andrea and Davis and everyone else and their favorite cookie. The way to connect those two tables is using your names, right? If I want Alfonso's information on demographics, I will look at Alfonso and I will be able to say my age and my income and everything else. And if I want to know Alfonso's favorite cookie, I go to the other table, I look for Alfonso, and it's going to show that oatmeal raisin is my favorite cookie. And if you disagree, then you're wrong, because it is the best cookie. I will take chocolate chip too. Maybe we're already hungry. But so in that case, the name is what Cole is asking, is what becomes the key, the primary key, what connects both of the tables. So if you have both of the tables, you put them in Tableau, you tell them that name is the way that the two tables speak to each other, and then you're able to connect demographics, for example, to cookie types. And then you're able to see like, oh, what is the favorite cookie type of Skillspire students over 30 or below 30? Or what is the income of people who like oatmeal raisin? Is it lower or higher? And things like that. So yes, that is how you connect different tables in Tableau. In this example, we just have one single one because we felt for this workshop it would have been too much information. But yes, Cole, that is exactly how you would connect them. Does anyone else have questions? No? Let me put my computer on do not disturb so I don't get spam on my while I'm presenting. Okay. Okay, if you folks don't have any questions, then what I'm going to do now is I am going to start creating visualizations. So once you have your data loaded in Tableau, you're going to come here to sheet 1. And this is going to be the original one that we had when I opened up Tableau for the first time. It's going to have the visualization here. It's going to have rows, columns, and fields, and then a name. You're going to be able to adjust some of the parameters here, and then you're going to have the different variables that you had originally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some of what Melanie was doing in Excel that you folks were working with on pivot tables, and then just making it happen in a single visualization in Tableau where we can then create a dashboard with it. Now, this is going to be very basic because we don't have as much time and this data set only has so many variables, but starting here is a good way to practice with Tableau. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab salary in US dollars. And I'm just going to literally click on it and then just drag it into the presentation. I'm going to grab salaries and then put it in rows. Or maybe I'm going to put it in column. Oh, yes, sum. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to show me. You see this little table here or this little tab here at the top right? When you click here, it's going to give you all the options of visualizations that you can create with the variable that you just added. So this is just one variable. I'm still just looking at the salaries in United States dollars. And you can see here that it kind of puts in color the visualizations that Tableau thinks are better and more usable using this type of data. So what I want to see is what are the ranges of the distribution of salaries. So I'm going to click on this one that is going to say a histogram. You need one measure. I already have salary in US dollars, so I'm going to click here and it's going to give me a distribution of data science salaries. I'm going to close this and now you can see your graph here. You can hover over the columns to see the ranges of salary and how many people here earn those amounts. So if I were to ask someone, let me see, let me get you participating a bit more. Who can tell me what is the range? Who can tell me a range where most of the data science salaries in this data are? And by the way, no wrong answers. And you get an imaginary cookie
In the
from the
100K
data set.
range?
Ola? I heard you say something.
Is it in the 100K range?
Please, let's see, in the 100K range, something along that, right? Exactly. Here. So you can see here in the x-axis, the number, the salary, and you can see here how many people earn that. So yes, somewhere around 100,000 is where most of the people fall, right? So yeah, great, thank you. You get an imaginary oatmeal raisin cookie.
I'll take the chocolate chip, thanks.
Amazing.
But okay, before you clicked the chart, there was a sum, like some numbers, a total number that was at the top in yours that didn't show up in mine. Is there something else that?
Let's start again. Let's start again. I'm gonna erase everything. So what I did is I grabbed this salary here, and instead of dropping it in rows, I dropped it here in the middle. And when I do this, it just shows me the sum.
Okay.
I can change, and this is very similar to what Melanie was doing. I can come here and change the measure into average, median, count, and different statistics.
Okay.
If I just click on this little widget here, and so for example, if I want the average, it's just going to give me the average. If I want the median, it's going to give me the median. But then if I want it in a graph, then I go here to show me, and then I select the graph, and then it just gives me the graph.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Great question. Thank you. Now I don't like this blue because everyone in everything computer science already do blue. So I'm just gonna come here. I'm gonna click on color, and I'm gonna choose a different color. And given that today is very nice and sunny and I'm happy, I'm going to put yellow. Do you like it? It's too bright, right? So let's use a different one. Let's do this one. Okay, that's better. I like it. Let's decrease the opacity a little bit so that it is somewhat transparent. Oh, no, that's too transparent, right? Let's increase it a little bit. Maybe more. Maybe the original one was better. So you can play around with the different options of visualizations. I can change the borders into a different color. So I could put it, for example, black. So then now the borders of each of the bins is black. I can change the markers. I can change different options. And of course, in the amount of time that we have today, I'm not going to be able to go in depth into each of this. So that's why I just encourage you to start just clicking and changing different things. I'm going to come here and call this, double click here, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it overall distribution of salaries in United States dollars. Okay. Actually, I'm going to put here scale spire rocks. And I'm going to change the color of this into green because I'm feeling green. And now you're adding labels, you're adding colors, you're adding descriptions. You can change different things. You can click here to change the parameters, right click, edit it. I'm not going to go into each of this, but basically everywhere you click, it's going to start giving you options of things you can do. And that's the kind of the fun of Tableau, because you can just start clicking here in different visualizations, and it's already going to give you some of the different things that you can do with the data. A bubble, a box plot. I guess this one is not as good for a box plot. So let's just stick with the distribution. But again, you can just do whatever you want. It's all about being creative. It's all about having a little bit of fun with the data. Okay, that is my first graph. I hope you folks are following along with the graphs with your own Tableau, but if not, it's fine too. You're going to have time to go over it on your own. Now, I want another graph because this is great, but I want to know now, I want to know the salaries of people with less experience or more experience, because this tells me something about the salaries, but it doesn't say, for example, who is making all this money. Is it the same data analyst that here is making $24,000? Probably not. So I want to explore that. So I'm going to come here down and I'm going to create a new sheet. You see that I clicked here. By the way, I can rename them. So graph 1, that's my first sheet. I created a new sheet. I'm going to rename it graph 2. Okay. But I'm going to change the name here eventually. So what I was trying to know is what are the salaries? So for now, I'm going to put the salaries here. And I want to know by experience level. So I'm going to grab experience level. I'm literally just going to drag it and drop it into columns there. Oh, and there you go. I have my graph of my experience level by my salaries by experience level. Okay, so now I actually want to add more stuff. I want to add here, I'm going to grab salary in USD and I'm going to drop it there so that it colors by the different variables. Instead of sum, I'm going to say the average, and now it has the average. I'm going to put the label mark, and then I'm going to align them horizontal. Oh, why is it not? I'm going to do it automatic because I'm spending too much time on it. So now you can see the salaries. Now you can see the averages. It's color coded. Let me choose a different graph. What about this one? Nah, it doesn't work, right? Let's do a horizontal one. Ah, that's nice, but I don't really like the whole thing, so I'm just going to remove this one. Oh, I need to remove from here. There you go. Now it's giving me the salaries like this. I don't like it as much, so I'm just going to stick with the one I had before here in columns, and then by experience level in rows. Change it. Oh no, I think I flipped the graph and now it's giving me this one. We can stick with this one. That's fine too. Because I want to move forward. But yeah, it's basically horizontal graphs. And I remember a question that someone asked Melanie earlier about how do you flip the axis? Well, you just come and move this one here and this one here. And now I flip the axis back into what I had originally. Okay, so I have this graph. Let's just put it in a different color because I just wanted to do different things. The other one was what? Purple or pink. I don't know. I'm terrible with colors. I'm going to make it gray. I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to say salaries by experience level. I'm going to save it. And now I have my second graph. Okay. Everyone following along? I know I'm going a little bit fast, but I just want to show you how you build it up. And then we're going to give you time to work on it on yourselves. Okay. This is my second graph. I'm going to add another graph that is going to be employment type by experience level. So what I want to know is in the columns, experience level, I'm going to add it to rows, and I'm going to be able to see, I'm going to come here, select the labels. Oh, what is happening? I need this as a count measure here, count. There you go. Employment type by experience level. Now you can clearly see that most of the, let's see, I probably did something wrong here. I'm just going to remove this one. And I'm going to do the counts. And then I'm going to do experience level. There you go. Okay, so I see the experience level here. And then I want to see which ones are more common in our data. I'm going to hide this so you can see it. And by the way, you can see that sometimes I'm just scrambling because I'm just grabbing different graphs and putting them together and playing around with the clicks. This is just a matter of practice. This is just a matter of going over the different relationships between the variables, changing the types here, and organize them in a way that you can create something with them. I'm going to call this graph. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to say counts of employment type. Okay, good. That is a third graph. I want another one. Oh, and let me change the color of this one. Let's put it on orange. Okay, I'm going to create a new graph. This one is going to be a bit trickier because remember here, if I come to company location, I put this here, it's going to show me, I'm going to say count. It's going to give me company location. I'm going to put it in columns 2. And then it's going to give me a lot of countries, a list of countries here. Denmark and France and Great Britain and the United States. And then you can see which are the countries of this data set. But now, if I come here to show me, I can see that there is a map. So then I ask myself, well, can I just build a map with this data? Well, it doesn't let me. So if I click here, it's not going to let me. But what you can see down here, I'm going to move over and then you're going to be able to look here into the map. It says may use a spatial measure. It needs, for symbol maps, it says try one geo dimension. So what it's telling me is that I need one variable to be transformed into a geographic location. And I have the countries here. Let me go back to the data here. Where are the countries? I have the countries here, company location. So what I can just come here is grab this and then change it into a map. So I can just grab this and say country or region. I select it and then it's going to transform these data into countries. It was before countries already, but the name in the data was just words, was just letters. with this, what I'm doing is I'm telling Tableau that these actually correspond to countries, to abbreviations of countries. And Tableau is very smart. Tableau knows that FR is France. So now I can come back here and you see that the countries now have color. So now I can select this, and now you have a map of the world with the countries highlighted. I don't like this one as much. Let's do this one. And now you have a map. Oh, let me edit here a little bit how I'm selecting this so I can move the data. And so now you can see the countries where there are data set, where our data is present, mostly Europe, some India, Japan, a lot of the United States. So look at how fast,
Can you
in
show
a
me
matter of
again?
minutes, we created a map. That is very cool in just a couple of clicks in Tableau. You can see here a color code for location. So I'm gonna say I want the color code to be red, black, and I want steps. So now, oh no, I don't like this one. Let's edit. Let's use, let's change the range. Oh, maybe let's use just 3 steps. There you go. And now we have, well, the problem is that there's so many observations in the US, right? That it's just harder to create differences in colors. But with this, I'm gonna give it a name. I'm gonna say geographic distribution of salaries in data. I'm gonna click OK, and now I have my 4 graphs. Graph number 1, 2, 3, and 4. How do I unify this? I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna click where it says new dashboard. I'm gonna click here, and now I have these different sheets. Oh, I didn't rename them. Let's rename this graph 3 and graph 4. So now I have these graphs, and now I can just, like if I was playing with my hands, I just grab them and drop them here. You see how I'm just grabbing them and dropping them. Now they look horrible because I just added them in a horrible way. But now I'm gonna reorganize them. So I'm gonna grab this one and I'm going to put it up here. I'm gonna change the size so that it looks a bit better. Okay, now I'm gonna grab this map here. This one I'm gonna put here to the right. And I'm just like with my mouse, just grabbing and moving around things. See? So I'm gonna delete this one because I don't like it. And now I'm organizing my dashboard in a way that you can see the different maps. I just click on them, move them around, make them bigger, make them smaller. You can just play around with it however you want. And that is how powerful Tableau is for quickly building a dashboard. In a matter of 5 minutes, I created 4 graphs with a global map, with names, with colors. Of course, you would have to be consistent with the colors and just make sure that things look better. But I just created a very nice graph. So Rashila asked, how did I convert company location to geographic? Let me show you again how I did that. Where's my mouse? There you go. I went here to data source, and then on the variable here, company location, I click and I can choose country. I can give it what type I want it to be, but I come here to geographic role and I tell Tableau that this is a country. Okay, that is how I did it. If I change it back into something, into none, and I go to the dashboard, look what happened with the map. The map went away because Tableau now doesn't know that the countries correspond to actual countries. I can come back here, go to company location, transform it into a country, go back to my dashboard, and now the countries show. Okay, I can click here on present, and now everyone is able to see my lovely dashboard. That is how you create a dashboard in Tableau. once you get the gist of it and how to create the variables, you're gonna see how easy it is. Natalia, can you give actual geographic coordinates as a variable? Yes, actually, and just to give you an idea of what the engineering of this is, when I transform these countries into country, what Tableau does is it assigns coordinates to them. So if I go, let me just exit presentation mode. And if I go to the sheet, you can see here that it has latitude and longitude, and it says generated. It already, Tableau knows the coordinates of the US, and it knows the coordinates of France, and then it just plots them in the graph. So yes, if you were to give it the coordinates, it would be the same. But this is just an easy way to get around it and create it in a fast way. Let me go back to the dashboard and present. Okay, does anyone else have questions?
I
I'm
have a
wondering if you
question.
can do that geographic chart from scratch from the beginning.
Sorry, I hear two people, Suita and then Cole. So Suita, let's start with you.
Yeah, I have a question. So
Mhm.
when I click on one sheet, uh, like on one, you can say country or salary, and does it show with the other corresponding sheets on the dashboard?
Not sure. Not sure I understand your question.
On the dashboard,
Yeah.
if I click on one, suppose if I click on 100K any, okay, so corresponding to this, it should show other, other sheets on the dashboard corresponding to that data.
I'm not sure, but I think you can just keep this. No. Yeah, I think I see what you mean. Oh no, let me add it again. I think I see what you mean, and I believe there is a way. Let me just try. Oh no, what did I do? I ruined it. I ruined the graph that I created. Deselect maybe? No. Uh, let's go
Can
to
we
the
do a fresh
graph.
one?
What did I do? I think I filtered it here. I'm gonna remove this filter, and now it's gonna show it back. So let's see, if I use this as a filter, yes, and I create it, then it's gonna filter to the other graphs only in this one, you see?
Yeah, I can see that.
So that is how I do the filter. Now, you can only do that when it's not presenting. So that's kind of a little change that you have to do. Like you have to come here manually and use it as filter. So for example, if I want to see the United States and I filtered it, and then every other graph is going to become only the United States. Look, when I do this as a filter, boom, now I just have all the information about the US. But you cannot do this in the presentation mode. That's the only little thing. Or maybe you can do it here, right? Let's see. Yes, it just doesn't let me. It's just a little bit annoying, but you can sort them. You can do different things in presentation mode. I just don't think it allows me to just very easily filter based on that one. You have to go out of the dashboard mode to filter. But it's doable.
Yeah, thank you.
And now let's go with Cole. You had a question?
I'm wondering if you can do the geographic one from scratch. After you
Yes. Let me
change
delete it.
first.
Let me go back here. Let me just delete this, remove, and let me bring the data back into its original shape, just so that we can do it from scratch. Okay, so we have our data. Data looks like this. Our locations are just codes for years, and it's just characters. So I'm gonna create a new sheet, and I'm gonna say company location. I'm gonna grab it here. I'm gonna throw it into my data. And actually, let's do something more interesting. Let's see the salaries in USD by location. Okay? Salaries by location. And let's do the average salary by location. Okay? This is the average salary by country. Now, this is not very helpful. This is not very nice, right? I wanted to see it in a map, but it's not going to let me. Why? Because the company location variable is not it's not a country. It's just, it gives me country, but Tableau doesn't know that it is a country. So I have to come here to the data source, and here in the type, change this geographic role to country. By the way, I can do that straight up here, right? Company location, I can change it here. If everywhere that you see the ABC next to the variable, you can do it there. Country. And then second I do that, it allows me to change into a map. So I change it into a map, and boom, I have my little map here. New map. I click OK. There's sheet 4 stayed there, doesn't matter. Now I can come here to my dashboard, grab sheet 4, and drop it under, and now I have my map. Let's make it a bit bigger because I really like that map. Let's unfilter. Okay, we don't have any filters. Oh yes, let's unfilter there. We can select, we can do whatever we want. Okay, were you able to create that graph?
Yes. I don't know why
Amazing.
they all like the same color when I was trying it earlier.
Yeah. It's sometimes you can just play around with it. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, mine has it's disappeared. Like I feel like I tried to go back to start again, and it's at the dashboard, but I can't get it to open up in another sheet.
So the dashboard is going to be down here. When you click on it, you don't see the graphs.
No.
Then you need to come here to sheets and then drag them and drop them again.
Okay.
You see these sheets here?
Mm-hmm.
You see the different graphs that you have. You click on it and then you put them into the dashboard, like with your hand.
Okay.
That should work. If not, then I would encourage you to kind of like delete everything and go back to the beginning and redo it. It might take some time, but the more you do it, the faster it goes. You get more practice and you're going to start being able to build the graphs very fast.
Okay.
Okay, so now what I want to do, and that is going to be the last section of today's presentation, today's workshop, is I've been talking for 2 hours. I want to give you some time with this data set, with Tableau, to just play around with it. Just create some sort of dashboard about some information in this data that you think is interesting, something that what Melanie did before, or like I did now, or replicate these dashboards that I created. Of course, we're going to share the slides, we're going to share everything, but I want to give you some time to just like sit with the data with Tableau and build it on your own from scratch and see where that goes. Stefania, I'm going to step out, but Stefania is going to stay around if you folks want to work on it here. And then she's going to be able to help you with some troubleshooting. And this is also somewhat of the way where we do it in Skillspire. Like usually the lecture is going to be something like 2 hours, and then the rest of the time you're going to be working on problems or on prompts on your own with the assistance from the TA. So also this is a good illustration of how is it that we work on Skillspire, because we don't want to be just Alfonso talking for 2 hours. We also want you to get your hands wet into the Tableau, into creating graphs, into creating visualizations. So what we're going to do now is you work on them on your own. If you have questions, Stephanie is going to be able to help you. And what I want, I'm going to give you my email. If you find something interesting, or if you have a nice dashboard, take a picture of it and send it to me, because I want to see them. I want to see what you create. And then if you have any questions, if you have any comments, anything else that you want to share, send them to that email to me and we'll address it and we're going to work on it together. I can give you feedback. I can tell you, oh, we can make a change here. Or if you have a question, we can address it there. So let's do that now. And then you folks can work on it and then send it to me. And then I'm going to respond to you by email. And then if you have any questions for now, feel free to go over them with Stefania, who is amazing, who has worked on this before. So she has all the knowledge. And also, if you folks want to talk or work on it together, however you folks want, that is somewhat of the Skillspire way. We believe that the learning happens by doing rather than just by listening to someone talk. So now you listen to me talk and Melanie talk too. Now you can work on it on your own and then build up from there. Okay, So anyone has any final comments, final thoughts? Thank you, Mary. Um, really appreciate you folks asking questions and commenting. And I think this is a very good sample of how the Skillspire courses go. So yeah, it's been great to see you. And now I'm gonna leave you with Stefania.
I had a question.
Okay.
I
Cool.
just wanted to know if you could briefly touch on the story piece after
Uh,
dashboard, the story selection.
I'm not sure what you mean.
The option to do story, the one right after dashboards.
Oh, yeah. So with Story, what you do is you're creating several dashboards that you can kind of like put one after the other. It's kind of like a PPT of dashboards. Does that make sense? I feel it's a next step than creating a dashboard. So that's why I didn't go there. But just to give you a brief just description is like several dashboards, one after the other. That's pretty much what you do.
Okay, thank you.
Natalia, to save a
Um,
dashboard, you just go to
I also
File, and then you just do Save As, and then that's just going to save it to you as a dashboard. You can also publish it into Tableau server, but you're going to need an account for that, and you can add a trial. I just didn't set it up for today, but if you do that, then you can also publish them on the web and people can see them. I heard someone else with a question.
yeah, I do.
Mhm.
I just wanted to ask about like maybe the difference or you know which one is maybe better between like Tableau and Power BI, for example.
Well,
In your
this
own
we can,
personal experience.
yeah, thank you. We can, yes, I think we could spend an entire day just discussing this. I can give you my personal experience. I prefer Tableau because it's very intuitive. But the power of Power BI is that it connects very well with the Microsoft Office files. So it works very well with Excel. It works very well with PowerPoint. It works very well with others. So if you have a license to Power BI, you might want to use that one. But I like Tableau a bit more, just the layout and how quickly you create the graphs. But then again, some of most of what I've seen in many cases is that whatever your company uses, that's what you have to use. Uh, so um, so yeah. Priyanka, we sent an email with the data set. So if you look for for the emails from Skillspire, you can see the link there. And then if not, I believe Melanie earlier shared the Kaggle website where you can download it. So it's there also in the chat and in the resources that she shared.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
The Tableau download, it says 10-day trial. So what after 10 days, like if I want to have more, and how do I share if my trial ends?
Yes, unfortunately, you need a license, and then that's usually paid. So if you want to keep using it after, you're gonna have to get a license. The students and teachers tend to get a 3-month license, but after your trial ends, it's like Netflix. It's like Apple TV. If you want to use it, you're gonna have to pay for it. Yes, there's unfortunately no way around that, and that's why usually you end up using the one that your company has because they already paid for it. Okay, so it's 3:11, well, 1:11 for you. I am gonna get going, but you have my email. If you have any questions, anything that you want to go over, let me know. And if you have any questions about Skillspire, I am here, Melanie's here, Yasmin is here, Stephanie is here. We'll be happy to talk to you. And hope we see you again in one of the courses. All right. So take care and have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.